For your outline for your literary analysis with research, I am mostly looking for a continual revision of your working thesis statement, which will be at the end of your introductory paragraph, and your evidence from your secondary sources paired with the evidence from the primary source that helps to prove what the secondary source is saying or helps you disprove what the secondary source is saying. But it should be an illustration. So the secondary source you need to use for the ideas that the scholars are asserting, and the primary source either helps illustrate that, back that up, or give an example from the short story or whatever type of literature you are analyzing. So you'll do, both of your sources should be in each of your body paragraphs, and you will have 3 body paragraphs or more if you need more. We're not set on a 5-paragraph essay, but it should be at least 5 paragraphs. And then your conclusion, go ahead and attempt to restate your thesis in a new way if you like. You can fill in all the extra stuff that you want to. Just make sure that for your body paragraphs, you definitely have both sources and they relate to each other, because you're going to use both those sources to help the conversation that's happening between you and the scholar who wrote about either the short story or work of literature itself, or some thematic element, something about the theme that you found an expert on that theme to discuss. So let me show you an example of a body paragraph really quickly. So go ahead and insert your title. I just have a holding spot for the title to remind you to use the title with the correct capitalization, make it creative and original, center it, don't make it bold, don't underline it, don't put extra spaces anywhere. And then for my thesis, this is different from the thesis I used for my sample preliminary works cited and working thesis. So I encourage you, once you start doing your research, don't hesitate to change your thesis if you find something that really speaks to you more than what you initially thought you were going to be pursuing. This is another way for me to give another approval of the direction you're going. And you should know at this phase, if you can find good arguments from your secondary sources, and you must have 2 secondary sources, and you're able to illustrate that or support that point with the primary source, you're halfway home. The rest is just going to be including your own critical thinking to provide some context and to have some real discourse, some conversation between yourself and the expert, either on the work of literature or on something having to do with the theme that you're exploring in the work of literature. So I only did one of the body paragraphs, so all of your body paragraphs should look like this, with next to the Roman numeral an assertion statement. If you use this outline that I am posting for you to use as a sample or a template. So the basics you'll have, and there are other outlines that I've posted for you on Blackboard that you can use that have a little more of the detail that's required for the body paragraphs, but this is the most basic. So just getting this is really the biggest part. It shows that you've done your research. If you can come up with an assertion statement that helps to prove the theme that you're suggesting the author is exploring in the work of literature, and then you'll have quotations from the secondary source and the primary source. Now, if it works better for your writing to give the example from the primary source first and then be in conversation with the secondary source, you could flip those two around. There's no rule that says that it has to go in this certain order. I just find it helpful to start with the idea of the scholar and then to continue on with explaining what the scholar means, which is what I would do here in an actual paragraph, and then set up some context for what I'm going to quote from the primary source. But these are the basics that I'm looking for in your outline for this particular assignment. Now, I'm also going to look at your works cited again. Some of you are not 100% on your works cited yet, so I just want to make sure that you remember how to cite a work of literature from the anthology. It's last name, comma, first name, period, of the author, not of the editor. This is the editor here, but the author of the work, the small work that is in the Norton anthology, or whatever anthology you might be assigned. We are working with the Norton anthology, and you are expected to use that. The title of the short story goes in quotation marks. Please note, especially for this assignment, if you are assigned a short story, call it a short story. If you're assigned a poem, call it a poem. Those are very different areas of literature, very different genres. So make sure you know the difference between poetry and prose. Some of you have not italicized the textbook title. It is a book. It should be italicized. And then after the title of the textbook, put the editor. The company is Norton. The year is 2019. And then PP period. These are lowercase p's with a period. This is for MLA 8, which will be updated soon, I hear. So, but right now we're using MLA 8, which requires PP period, and then all of the pages that the short story is on, not just the first page, not just the page from which you're quoting, all of the pages. And then you don't have to continue to put the primary source in the works cited when you quote it 3 times. You don't put it in the works cited 3 times. You put all of the page numbers here. And then your sources will be in alphabetical order, so it just happens to be that my primary source comes first alphabetically. If it did not, I would put it in alphabetical order. So I'm not putting these in order of how often I'm using them or primary, secondary. They are just all in alphabetical order. So your articles should be in alphabetical order along with the primary source in your list. So let me talk just a moment about how I found things to quote, because some of you may need help with that. So here's the article that I gave you a sample of that I just showed you. And I want to call your attention to some important things to keep in mind. When you find a source, they're going to start with some context to set up their argument. And sometimes context has a good deal of plot summary, and you don't want to quote anything that is plot summary because that is not something that is a unique idea to that expert. So don't quote something that you should know from having read the work yourself. So all of this green is plot summary stuff that you should know from having read the work yourself. Now the pink parts are more unique ideas to this particular writer and the argument that he is making. So I went through and highlighted the things that I thought might work, and I highlighted for you some clues that you may want to use to help you know the difference between what's common knowledge and what is something that the expert is asserting about the work of literature. And so phrases like Hawthorne apparently believed, that alerts me to an assertion, a claim that this scholar is making. So look for phrases like that, or Hawthorne may suggest. And then the pink parts again are the things that are those claims that I thought might be useful in my essay. So be careful not to cite things that are common knowledge that might have been written by several different authors, or things that you should know from having read the story more than once. If you can find it on an online study guide, that is not something you should quote. So let's just look at the general outlines. Here is the sample I'm giving you. So the template will look like this. And again, this is what it's going to look like. Assertion statement, evidence from the secondary source, evidence from the primary source. I would like them integrated into sentences so that I can see you know how to do that. And for that purpose, I have given you a list of signal phrases that you can find at this link. And here's a YouTube video that shows you how to integrate a primary source in a variety of styles. So make sure you're doing that. Now, another option for your outline is, this one's more involved, but I have it posted for you as well under the general handout type things. You can look at the video demonstration of this outline if you're interested, but it does give more details, like paragraph 1. I could have put the main point next to the Roman numeral, or you can just put a keyword there, or just leave it body paragraph 1 if you want to. But definitely include a main point, and then context from the secondary source. That's just something that helps you set up a point that you're making. Again, using both the primary source and the secondary sources in each body paragraph is what I'm looking for. And then if you want to fill in the D part, your explanation, how the writing of the section you quoted from the novel, and we're not doing a novel at this point, but whatever work of literature you're doing relates to the point you got from the secondary source and supports the thesis statement. So this one gives you one more step toward a fully developed body paragraph, but you'll still have some work to do. Like, you'll still have some of your own writing to do in between the quotation from the secondary source and the illustration from the primary source, no matter which order you put them in. So your conclusion is written out sort of more like a body paragraph in this one, or an actual paragraph, not a body paragraph. Do not start with the phrase "in conclusion" for your conclusion. That's one caveat. Also, for your body paragraphs, make sure that you are not using the word quote. When you're quoting something, don't use the word quote because of two reasons. One, you usually will use it wrong. Really, you only need to use the word quote if the person you're quoting is quoting someone else. And then I would advise you use a different word for that. And the other reason is, if you use the word quote, like "this quote means that," it really puts more emphasis on the fact that you are required to put quotes in your paper, and it drops the level of writing down a level that doesn't reach that sort of college level that we're looking for. We're looking for writing that seems to be on par with what the scholar or scholars that you've researched have said about this work of literature, or something having to do with the theme where those scholars are experts in the field of that particular theme. So I will post all of these examples for you. In the link to the actual assignment, I'll just put one template, and you can use that template and you can just backspace where I have stuff and put your own stuff. That's what I did for mine. So for example, here in this one with the hawthorn, that is not it. So this one, all I did when I was ready to write an assertion to support the thesis is I just highlighted it. Don't highlight every word, just backspace to one word, and then, but if you were to accidentally go back too many times, you can just hit enter and then shift and tab to get your Roman numeral back, and then you can type in your assertion statement, your main idea sentence there, however you need to do it. So that's how you do that. Easy enough, right? So that's it. Let me know if you have questions, and